I think a lot of us are in awkward situations on the internet because I'm a real person, you're a real person, content creators are real people. Some people are brands, and some people are people who try to be brands, and some people are brands who try to be people, you know? You think about all those brand names who show up in people's TikToks with the comment section trying to be like a cool kid, and you're like, get out of here, 7-Eleven, you know what I mean? But it's difficult because, especially when you do politics or philosophy, or you do a lot of content that's about opinions, like a lot of opinions. It's the question is always like, are you talking about the individual, their politic, their philosophy? Like, what are you talking about? For my content here, because we do philosophy through pop culture, I love people. I like figuring out why we do what we do. I like figuring out the answers to the universe. I have philosophy autism, where I want to solve existential dread. I want to, I hear loneliness epidemic and I think, ooh, philosophical, like this is a philosophical issue, And obviously philosophy plays into politics. But when I comment on people, no matter who they are, one thing I'm trying to do is signal to my audience my own ethics and morals and my boundary. Because I think we forget on the internet. I know the internet has shifted. It used to be like you were fans of a creator. And now most of the people who watch your content are not even going to know who you are. It's going to be the first time they're seeing you. And that's the new algorithm. That's the new way YouTube does things. So if you're a big creator, you probably have some like quote fans who know your work and sort of they can see the flaw in who you are as a person because we're not perfect. But generally, most of the comment sections are filled with non-fans. So when people say like, oh, even your audience is disagreeing with you, 99% of those comments won't be from people who have ever seen you before. And people don't understand that. They also, as a consumer, I've been on the internet as a creative for so long. I have no idea what it's like to be a person who's just watching somebody with no understanding of how YouTube works. So it's hard for me to remember what it's like to be a viewer. So you guys have to sort of remind me that like, Britt, we don't know that. Like, we don't know the behind the scenes stuff. We don't know how things work. And so that plays into my commentary, of course. So when I see somebody make a comment, I disagree with somebody that I even promoted, I have to say, I disagree with this. I have to pull their argument apart because I have to signal to my audience who I am and what I stand for. Otherwise, my audience is going to think, oh my gosh, Brittany's a hypocrite. She loves this person. Why does she love this person? And then I have to also say, even though I love this person, they're flawed and problematic, or, hey, I like this person, but if they do this, it's over. Even though I've loved all of their work, and even if I watch them in private, because I watch everybody in private, I'm always researching. All books are good books, even bad books. All videos are good videos, even bad videos. Publicly, it's important that we set a standard for expectation. So when I call out, today we're going to talk about Chelsea Fagan and Hassan Piker, who've been two of the people I've been the most critical of. But I've been critical of others as well. It's just, you notice that their fans don't come into my chat and bother me because the truth is like, they probably don't have those kinds of audiences. What's more interesting and important for the audience to remember is why, when someone talks about somebody you like, do you go in the comment sections as hard as you do? Because I don't have time for that personally. You know what I'm saying? And the question is, why do you? Why do you have time to show up in my video, a person whose work you do not know, and you're fighting in the comments for your life about a creator that doesn't know you? And it's because there's a parasocial element to this work that makes audiences feel like it is a reflection of them. That's why when I criticize Hassan or Chelsea, I think they probably take it personal. Like, is Brittany talking about me? Maybe, but I'm really just talking about the concept. So recently, there was a conversation happening in my chat about this. Let me bring this up for you. And one of my viewers, they've been touching grass, which I love to see, saw that I had made a video about Ariana Grande and Chelsea Fagan. And again, we can talk about eating disorders. Again, we can talk about mental health. I just don't think we should be attacking people. I don't appreciate how Chelsea Fagan called for the deplatforming of Ariana or said that like we shouldn't buy tickets to her show. I don't like that she said it was like animals at a zoo. There's just like a lot I didn't like. And Chelsea has been under fire for a while, not just for me, PS. Remember that Chelsea fights her audience all of the time. If you watch Chelsea's content, she always knows her audience is going to be upset with her. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not like I am unique in this. It's not like I specifically have issues with Chelsea that other people in her audience don't have. That's why when she wrote that comment about buying a second house, she wrote a comment saying, I knew this video would cause some conversation. So to avoid hurting my own feelings and spending all afternoon going back and forth individually, let me answer some questions. It's not like I was alone in my criticism of Chelsea. Okay? Same thing with Hassan Piker. It's not like I'm the only woman on the internet or the only femme or gender fluid person making content about Hassan's fuckboyness. It's just like you guys are watching me, but you have to understand a lot of us are having this discourse, whether you're involved in it or not. So what I want to do is I kind of want to highlight the differences too between, you know, we're people, yes, but we're also working. And so all of us have strong opinions about everybody else. I think it's shocking that people think we're going to have strong comments about each other, but like we don't know each other. I don't know Hassan Piker. I don't know Chelsea Fagan. I watch them. I pay attention to their content. I would even argue that I like Chelsea to an extent, but like I don't know them. So when I see them, all I see is a person in a position of privilege making a statement that in my mind contradicts their belief system in a way that I go, oh, we can learn from this. Now I could be wrong. And if Chelsea or I'm not going to talk to Hassan because he is way too, I was going to say I'm open to talking to either of them. I'm not open to talking to Hassan Piker, but only because my audience and I already decided he'd be too dangerous for this platform. So he can't. But Chelsea, if Chelsea wanted to talk to me, I would talk to Chelsea. Hassan is too, I would get harassed by his community. He's already disregarded the feelings of Black people, trans people, disabled people. Like we're done giving him a chance. You know what I mean? To figure it out. He's too old. And that's the other part of this that I think is playing a role in this. We're too old. You know, it's different if we're all 21 and figuring it out, but we're all almost 40. You know what I mean? Chelsea and I think our oldest, we're 37. And I think Hassan's 34. So like we're too damn old to be having these conversations, right? So as an example, let's start with the Hassan stuff. I think it would be easier, and then we'll go into the Chelsea stuff. Hassan Piker, as an example, I think he's a fuckboy. I think he doesn't have good boundaries with his audience. I think he's not clear about what he's doing. I think he plays way too much into what he looks like, and he allows his audience to have way too much of a parasocial relationship with him. I think he rewards that behavior. I think girls need to learn to decenter men. I think if Hassan was truly intersectional, truly feminist, like truly progressive, he would encourage his audience to decenter him, because how he looks should not matter when we're talking about a genocide of a population. We're talking about fascism. We're talking about, you know what I'm saying? Like if Hassan Piker had a boundary with his content, there'd be a difference. But here you can see on his own TikTok page, almost 2 million followers, his reposts are his thirst cams. Literally, people make thirst cams of Hassan and he reposts them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing? And then the comment section gets rewarded. They're like, oh, he'll definitely repost this. Like, that's the point. Oh, he's so hot. You know what I mean? It's like, hello, ma'am. Okay, like he's reposting these. And I'm not, and now I understand, like I am coming from a very leftist perspective. A new Hassan edit. Oh my God, I live for his daily mirror selfies. Hassan, waiting for Hassan to find this. Here before Hassan gets to it. Look, I understand people who are obsessed with hating Hassan also bring this up, but they're bad faith. They have no idea. They're misogynists themselves. So if an Ethan Klein brings this up, who cares what Ethan thinks? He's also a misogynist, right? I don't care what Ethan Klein thinks. In my opinion, Ethan Klein and Hassan engage in misogyny. That's why Ethan Klein said to Taylor Lorenz, Hassan will never fuck you, because that's the misogyny. So I don't care what they think. And I'm saying both of these men are problematic, but the women should be encouraging other people to de-center men. And we're not going to de-center patriarchy in men if this is the kind of stuff that we're making. And God knows how old these people are. Like, I don't even know how old the people are who are making these edits. Let's see if I can go to their editing, mostly for Hassan. What is this? You know what I mean? This is like a Hassan fan page, literally. And he just reposts this stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is not the direction that true progressive liberation is supposed to be going in. I'm going to mute it. Muted. With you. Yeah. Oh, with you? With him. Thinking of you, Katy Perry? Who is this? Okay, you get it. You get it. It's like, when I'm with him, I'm thinking. That one. Okay, whatever. Who cares? The point is, like, okay, here's another video. He's like reposting it. Okay. Do you get what I'm saying? The point is, whether we like it or not, this is fuckboy behavior. And I'm saying the world is too goddamn serious for you to be out here being a fuckboy. Okay? That's what I'm trying to point out. And I'm saying him reposting it, reposting it is him encouraging it. And I'm saying we've seen this with Bill Clinton. We've seen this with JFK. We don't need more fuckboy presidents. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't need more of these men. We need better leaders, better people in positions of power. So again, I don't know Hassan Piker, but based off of his actions, I have questions. Based off the fact that he collabed with Charlemagne, who openly admitted to assaulting women multiple times by drugging them, like, I'm over it. So again, I don't know why we keep giving all these men a pass, except we genuinely do. And every time I say Hassan he's more and more closer to these other men. So God forbid something, I mean, I think enough has already come out about Hassan, but let's say more came out. And then people said, oh my God, how did we not know? But here are all the receipts. This happens with every man in this political space. The men will have a controversy. Then everyone starts digging into their past and goes, oh, wait, it was there the whole time. I'm saying it's already here. It's obvious. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it doesn't matter, but I have to say it for my own audience because I've already fallen, as many of us have, for these men who say they're fighting the good cause, they're doing the right thing, and then we wonder why we didn't see it before. Well, because I think a lot of us don't know as well. I can't tell you how much we don't know about the creators we watch, right? So let's watch this TikTok.
And attractive. It's come to my attention that a lot of ladies find this man attractive. And when I think about this, it's like, I think I can sort of get myself into the headspace where it's like, okay, yes. But I have to go back to the time when I was like 18. This would have done it for me. Like, oh my gosh, like the drama, look at him. He cares. It's like the bad.
And I just want to say, like, I've also been a young girl as well. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have fun and fall in love and be like, oh my God, girls. I'm just saying when you're ready, you need to decenter men and recalculate your politics and look at your philosophy and think about what it means to objectify and allow someone to also do this, like allow somebody to do the performance and to believe the performance whilst like hoisting him up as the guy, right? Because it's going to make sense to you why a lot of marginalized people don't love Hassan, but that's also why I think white supremacy rewards him, because only in white supremacy could Hassan Piker be the guy because of exactly this. And, the patriarchy of it all, girls.
Bad boy thing. Then when I was about 24, I sort of got over this and I was like, wait a minute, what's awesome? Emotional maturity and someone truly being interested in me and caring about me for who I am. Like my husband never had to tone down his misogyny to like get something he wanted.
I gotta lower my misogyny, I think. I'm beginning to realize like I gotta farm women more. How do you farm?
He said, I gotta farm women more. I gotta turn down my misogyny. By the way, this is what happened with Destiny and Vosh, where people are like, Brittany, he's not like Destiny or Vosh. He's not far off. Like you guys think he's far off because he's more handsome than them. But the truth is he's not. He says he slept with 100 people. He's been with sex workers, which by the way, I'm pro sex work, but I don't trust a man who's only slept with sex workers. If the only people you sleep with are sex workers, basically, you cannot be trusted. Misogynistic, horrible men engage in sex work all the time, right? He's talked about his computer full of porn, right? How is that different from Vosh? He reblogs thirst camps of himself. God knows how many of them are teenagers. He says and admits in his interviews with publications that he gets nudes and porn from fans. God knows how many of them are kids. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, with peace and love, Destiny went through this whole, like, I have to make my content less misogynistic. Hassan does it. They have a majority male audiences. Again, with all of the data, like, again, the only reason Hassan is getting a pass is because he's popular. He is more successful, but a big part of that is his aesthetic. And the fact that you guys keep ignoring his friends, his associations, the people he does collaborations with. Like, if you look at his history, I tell you this, in 5 to 10 years, it's going to be like, how did we not know? So, I'm just ahead of my time, really. But this is separate from the people who hate Hassan, because the same men who spend their whole life hating Hassan, they're also misogynists. They also, don't care. They're also people like Destiny. So remember that. So if you're just a guy who hates Hassan on the internet, like I don't care what they think. This is us and our audience and our values and what we think. Okay? And so that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to pay attention to. That's our goal here.
It's our strat. Like, ladies, I just remembered that the Roe v. Wade decision came down the way it did on the Supreme Court.
So now he's being a fuckboy. He's like, ladies, that Roe versus Wade decision that came down from the Supreme Court. He's like being a, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, my civil rights are like being threatened. You fuck off. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, We need to be so serious about the fact that the government, that conservative groups are literally talking about taking our right to vote away. Well, Hassan is playing chummy chum with MAGA people because he, quote, wants to believe he'll change their mind without understanding he's just platforming MAGA. All you're doing is platforming MAGA. MAGA people are some of the nicest, sweetest, most bigoted people you'll ever meet. The average MAGA voter is the nicest person who will help you take your groceries to the car, and they will still vote against your civil rights. Like, I can't tell you how compassionate and wonderful my family is. They will still go to the voting booth and vote against your right to exist. Like, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how nice and sweet they are to you. MAGA people are nice. Like, I don't know why you think they're mean. Some of them are mean, sure. But a lot of them on a daily basis are people you get along with. But that's the point. So you can't platform them and give them a microphone to your millions of followers. So your millions of followers go, maybe MAGA's not that bad. Yet the people are still, in the nicest way possible, going to vote against your civil rights, okay?
I'm a little bit too much of a dude bro, so sometimes I'll pop off and I'll say something like this on this show.
Yeah, sure. Not attractive,
Sometimes I'll,
guys.
like, suck my
Okay, so we talked about this the other day, right? He's like, sometimes I get on a show and I'll say something maybe misogynistic, like you can suck my dick to a woman. And my audience was like, so misogynistic.
and people don't really like that. You know what I mean? Especially if it's towards, again, a reactionary, but a reactionary woman.
I never have to make excuses for something my husband said, like now or in the past. I never had to feel like, he was just joking.
Like, if you have these millionaire, billionaire, wasp fail sons, at least taking them out of other colleges so they can only do date rape to other billionaire, millionaire.
And look, I don't know who Summer is. Let me look her up because I don't know who this is. Former attorney, former teacher, trying to focus on education, but I have ADHD. I mean, relatable. I don't know her work exactly. I think she might be the same woman we watched talk about a couple of other things, but I don't know much about her. But this video is just like another example of like people are talking about the issues with Hassan. And these are the things that people will bring up in 5 to 10 years when we go, how didn't we see it?
Failed daughters is like, in some respects, you know, from a utilitarian perspective, of course, a little bit better, you know?
It's like some 16-year-old girls, they think that nothing is hotter than like a guy who will just be an asshole to everybody but them without realizing that like, hey, that guy will be an asshole to you too at some point. And it's just like,
Well, hold on, Chad. I'm not saying, you said I disagree. MAGA people are the nicest. Watch what happens when there's a white versus a black case. I'm not saying that MAGA people are always the nicest. No, pause. I'm not trying to say all MAGA people are nice. I'm trying to say, of course they're nice when they're on stream with you and they're trying to look good. Of course they're nice when they're taking out your groceries and they don't know anything about you. Of course they can be nice, like, because they're people. I'm saying, of course they can be nice. I'm not saying that they are always nice. I'm not saying that they are mostly nice. I'm saying that, of course, you can start to think to yourself, like, are Republicans even that? Like, are MAGA only this? Is this? But that's the thing with all of them, right? Like, everybody, all human beings are nice when they want to be nice. We can all get along when we want to get along. But when we start to have serious conversations, this is the deviation, which is why with Chelsea and Hassan, I'm saying, hey, I can get along with both of you until we start talking about real shit. And now we're going to have problems and we're all on the left. But we're different kind of leftists with different kinds of goals. So same with us. I can get along with anybody until we get serious. And then now we might have beef. That's what I'm trying to say. So please don't hear me as like, saying like, oh, white supremacists are so nice. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to say, like, generally you get through, you know, most of your life pretty okay. But when it really gets serious, then shit hits the fan, you know?
nice to date a guy and to be with a guy who is like a genuinely good person. No, I'm not happy that he got subpoenaed. I'm also not really worried about it. I mean, it's bad. It is.
Yeah, I'm upset with that too, because just from a principled position, the government should not be coming for free people, feeding people in Cuba, should not be accosting American citizens for free speech. Like, obviously, from a legal perspective, we back Hassan Piker. From a moral, ethical perspective, on the way he engages in his platform, he's just another man with power. But that criticism isn't just for Hassan, it's for every conservative man, it's for every MAGA person in their platform. So all of the heat I have for Hassan, I've got 1,000 times more heat for conservatives, right?
Really bad to like do any sort of political retribution. I know this, and apparently he doesn't. But also it's like, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, hello, that was malicious prosecution. It was so malicious that he actually could prove it in a court of law. Like, you guys, he'll be fine. Hassan Piker will be fine. And no, like, you know, they shouldn't have done that, like, condemnation of him or whatever. And I'm not against communists, whatever. There are all of my disclaimers there. He's still, like, awful and toxically masculine. And it makes
It says, take it from an old lady in a healthy long-term relationship, being an asshole is not attractive.
I'm sad that young women aren't getting this.
I agree with her in that way. Like, we love our leftist brothers and sisters and comrades. We love everybody. And nothing about Hassan isn't just misogyny repackaged, you know? So that's really the concern I want to explain to you. So the fact that he's reblogging, the fact that he's, encouraging the thirst traps, that's the point I'm trying to say is, like, whether you see it or not now, let this 37-year-old woman tell you he is a red flag. And that's it. You don't have to agree, but for my personal ethical framework, he is a red flag. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. Now, let's relate this to Chelsea Fagan as well, because again, I prefer Chelsea. When I watch Financial Diet, I really don't want to watch anybody else but Chelsea Fagan. Like, she just has an energy to her. She's interesting. I love how passionate she is. She is truly like what makes Financial Diet for me. And so it sucks to get to the point where I realize, like, oh, our ethics are deviating, and I'm going to stick around to see if she comes back or if she swings back around left. But, even watching this recent interview, says, I'm an activist for 70 years. I'm terrified for young people. Just listen to this section here. And this is the problem I'm seeing with Chelsea is a lack of self-awareness. That's really shocking to me a little bit. Relatively shocking to me, I should say. Okay, listen to this.
Also see that reflected in, for example, the way the baby boomer generation has held on to wealth, property, assets, capital, all of that in a sort of historically unprecedented way. This sort of change in the paradigm being, I want to leave a better world for my children, by whatever definition, and we all have different definitions of what that might be, almost to a sort of, I'm going to, light a match and set fire to it on the way out.
Okay, so she's like boomer hoarding wealth right here. And she's talking about that, but doesn't understand she's doing it herself. When she talks about boomers hoarding the wealth and property, what does she think she's doing when she buys 2 houses that she doesn't even have for kids or family? Like, what does she think is happening there? And that's the disconnect with Chelsea that I'm not getting. What are you criticizing boomers for holding on to property if you just bought a second house that you don't even live in for only half the year? You know what I'm saying?
Update to share. So I have a bit of a life update to share, which is that I live here now. Well, technically, my husband and I will live here from May to September every year. And for reference, this is in Arles, a city in the south of France. And then for the rest of each year, this will be a free artist residency for women to come live and work on their projects. We will also be hosting retreats and events and classes and things like that in this home in the summer season as well. If you do not know me, this probably seems like a little out of nowhere, but for context, my husband and I were already spending about half of every year in France anyway, which meant mostly living in rentals or staying with family. And we were even like renting big homes similar to this one so that people could come stay with us, friends, family, etc. Like last year, we hosted 25 people in a single month. We were already spending a lot of money on this regardless. It just wasn't being invested in anything.
20 to 30K in her main video about this. Here, she mentions they were spending 20 to 30K a year going to France. I just want to remind people, so when we talk about ethics and we talk about what is ethically correct, it's very layered. So I was watching like 2 philosophers talk about the ethics of veganism, and they were arguing the ethics of fast fashion and flying in airplanes. This is an example. When we talk about the idea that Chelsea is like, well, I was just already spending 30K a year traveling to France. I should buy a home. This is like very far from most leftist philosophy and pretty far from most average people's lives. So people say, but Brittany, Chelsea earned it. Yeah, so that's a very conservative capitalistic argumentation. Conservatives will say, you earned it, girl. Go get your second house. No one can tell you how to live. Fly everywhere you want. Travel everywhere you want. It doesn't do anything to challenge the sort of entitlement to not only flying, freely, but to going. Now, people have accused me like, oh, you're just jealous because you don't get to see your family and you want to see them. For the record, even if Chelsea was my sister, I'd say the same thing. If my sister called me and said, hey, girlie, I want to buy a house in Croatia so I can come see you, but for 6 months out of the year, I'm going to write it off as a nonprofit, which Chelsea's going to do with her home, and da-da-da-da, I'd say absolutely not. I would rather you didn't. How is this helping the local economy? How is this, like, I would have issues if my family did this. And you have to keep in mind, I do have an Assyrian family. We are West Asian. We have family who stays in homes. I don't think any of my families have ever bought a home to then write off from the government, then to, you know what I'm saying, to say it's a nonprofit, and then to say it's our own private home. I don't think any of my family has ever even bought a house that says vacant because we put families in there. So I just don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, if you could see your family, you would see them. Yeah, I would see them in the most ethical way possible, given my values. So again, if this is Chelsea's values, that's okay. But Chelsea knew it would be a problem because she preemptively knew there would be problems. And so it's not just me. It's not like Brittany Simon has a problem with Chelsea. It's many people, and Chelsea herself knows it's going to create an issue with people. But why would it create an issue with people, right? Now, I even saw some comments asking Chelsea, like, hey, I would love to see some trans women being highlighted in your interviews. And people were like, oh, no, not trans women. Like, this is a space for just women. And the reason this is important is because in this interview with this guest, this activist, the activist kept mentioning Black women, trans women, women who are marginalized. And every time it got uncomfortable, you would just see Chelsea Fagan like switch topics. Like this woman would be like highlighting Black women, and Chelsea would be like, so anyways, let's talk about climate change. It's like she can't engage, you know? And then she has this new nonprofit that is her personal home turned into a nonprofit that she says is just for women. So now the question is, which women? Are trans women allowed? And then when you do your get-togethers or your retreats, are gender fluid people allowed? Like, who's allowed? Which kinds of women? So then it brings up the question about how possibly turfy is this? And that's the question. So I loved this guest. Like, I thought this was a really great interview. But it was interesting to see this older woman actively make sure she brought the conversation back to Black women and trans women and minorities, and Chelsea just sidestep it. You could see like she just couldn't engage. She didn't ask follow-up questions. She didn't highlight voices. It was like she didn't know one Black woman or one trans woman to mention. It was really strange. It was a great guest, weird interview, right? This makes me think, okay, so Chelsea is engaging in a sort of trap of, yes, she's, we can argue means of production. We could argue like, what she, how much power she has and all this other stuff. But I'm saying like, the reason I'm critical of Chelsea is the same reason I'm critical of anyone on the internet, because you guys are there and we're posting content. I don't think it's obsessive to talk about Hassan or Chelsea any more than it is for Hassan to talk about Asmin or us to talk about Trump or Chelsea to talk about Ariana, as long as the way we're talking about them is within the framework of our ethics. So that's the follow-up question. So one of my viewers has been touching grass lately, and they asked me, this is one of my members, shout out to my members. She said, hey, girly, some thoughts. And I want to preface with saying this is good faith coming from a point of wanting to understand your internal logic, not poke holes as a gotcha. I want to understand how you conceptualize these things so I can better hear how you're saying them. Let's get into it. They said, I agree to a large extent that we should be mindful of how we talk about topics that relate to people's bodies. I know a lot of people feel frustrated and are having this conversation in a clunky way because they are hurt with the resurgence of extreme thinness being normalized and angry at feeling their own bodies are under attack by the standard. I agree there are better ways to have the convo without turning sick people into targets / cause of the problem. It's the patriarchal value of controlling, moralizing how bodies should look is the root issue we're all deconstructing to root issue. We're all working to deconstruct ourselves / encourage others. So I'm going to go paragraph by paragraph. First, because I do not suffer from an eating disorder, my perspective will always be different. So if you suffer from an eating disorder and you have opinions, then you should share those opinions, right? I think the issue is I'm always coming from a philosophical perspective, and also I'm coming from an ableist, like a disabled perspective. So for me, I'm seeing the ableism of it all mixed in as a disabled person, and also a person who wasn't like always conventionally considered pretty, or isn't considered conventionally pretty. Some of those things play into it. But I just want to say, like, the root issue isn't just patriarchal values of controlling and moralizing bodies. This also is ableism, which falls into more relationship with capitalism as well. Because mind you that Chelsea Fagan went for Ariana's money, went for the way she looked, and said her body is sickly and like scary to look at. So she hit all three. patriarchal standards of judging women's bodies, capitalist attack on Ariana's bag, and then and not just Ariana's, because guys, when we talk about Chelsea or Ariana, we're not just talking about them, are we? We're talking about you. When I talk about Hassan, I'm not just talking about Hassan. I'm talking about all his fans who make those thirst cams. At the end of the day, the reason it's so hurtful to watch people talk about people is because you identify with these people you're watching. So when I go for them, it's going to go for you. So when Chelsea talks about Ariana, I'm like, hey. Now you're sending out the message that disabled people don't deserve to work or be seen in public. So as an example, some people are like, Ariana is rich enough. She shouldn't have to work. She could go do something else. Yes, but what if she's sick for her whole life? What if Ariana's eating disorder or whatever she is sick with, what if she's sick with it her whole life? Is she never allowed to work for her whole life? Because there's this idea that, oh, she'll go get help and then she'll be in recovery and then she won't have to, she can sing again. But maybe singing is also giving her purpose. Maybe that's her fulfillment. Like we saw with Celine Dion. Like you could see what a struggle it was for Celine not to be able to sing. Like I think we forget that these talented people, it also is so meaningful for them. And so I think there's a disconnect happening here, that the argument is not fully fleshed out. And again, if Chelsea wants to talk to me about it, I would love to talk to her about it, right? Next paragraph says, I agree to a large extent that we should be mindful of how we talk about these topics as it relates to people's bodies. Oh, wait, I think I already read that. I did. Okay, the disconnect for me is how this differs from all the other ways we talk about people in these online spaces. For example, I don't think you know Chelsea personally, but are exhibiting a lot of concern as a prior fan of her content. What is the difference about people parasocially being concerned of a content creator is headed towards the wrong values versus being concerned someone may be sick? I'm only slightly concerned about, so one part of me is concerned about Chelsea and the other part of me is just making it clear that I fundamentally disagree with her. And this is the struggle we're all going to have in this space. We're both public figures and everything is political, and I have to signal to my audience where I stand. And I have been promoting Chelsea's content to my audience. And just like I've done with past content creators, like, hey, Brittany, why did you recommend this person? They're problematic. I have to take back recommending her, right? Because her content is getting problematic. So the issue is that it's for my resume, for my name, I have to clear my name and remind people that I still watch Chelsea's videos, but I am always disappointed with how much she is not deconstructing, because it's like, damn, this is her threshold. So I'm not just concerned, right? Like the concern is I'm concerned for everybody. That's like that, we can put that to the side. The reason I keep making content about it is because she's a content creator. She makes literally so many TikToks about other people. I don't think she has any business telling somebody not to make content about her. This woman literally makes fun of people for a living. She literally makes so much content mocking people, making fun of what they wear to weddings, making fun of how they do their clothes, their hair. She's constantly fighting for herself in these comments. I don't think Chelsea has any room to tell people not to make content about her. Do you know what I'm saying? So again, we're making content about each other because we're making content about each other because we're public figures. So I just feel like sometimes like there is this space where when I remember getting this criticism about Destiny, where I would make content about Destiny and people would be like, why do you keep talking about him? As if he's not a public figure talking to politicians, as if he's not fighting. You know what I'm saying? Like as if these people aren't somebody in the world. Chelsea's being interviewed by NPR. She's being interviewed by like big publications. She's not just you know what I'm saying? These aren't your friends. So like Hassan Piker is being interviewed by all these people. Like, I don't know why we still live in a world where we think YouTubers are just people. They're not just people. They're getting social credit. They're becoming wealthy. People are promoting their ideas. And I'm sitting here going, wait, is this an idea we should be promoting? And if it is, like, so Chelsea can make a video about Ariana, right? And explaining her feelings. But if I make a video about Chelsea, her fans are in my comments telling me I'm a horrible person. How do you think Ariana feels watching that video? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying if Chelsea feels hurt watching my video, how does Ariana feel watching 100 of your think pieces about her body? So obviously my viewer's not saying this, but like Chelsea's fans were in my chat, like yelling at me, saying I was jealous of Chelsea, saying even Hassan fans are like, you're so jealous of him. I don't know. This is why I say introspection and self-awareness is so hard. Introspection is so hard. Like, you guys, is the world not a white supremacist, ableist, transphobic fucking place? So what are we doing? Why are you pretending like the world isn't a terrible place where we have to make it less bad? So yeah, like if you think I'm just jealous of Hassan and Chelsea instead of concerned because we're fighting for our lives against fascism and we're fighting for our lives against bigoted people, sure. But at the end of the day, please know that, you know, he's buying a $3 million house, she's buying a second house, and the rest of us are just trying to live our life to the best of our ability, helping our communities. Like, I do believe, and this is probably the part that people don't understand, I do believe Hassan is doing less for the world than the millions of teachers, the millions of social workers, the millions of just, you know, garbage collectors, the millions of, I don't know, fast food workers. Like, I do think streamers are doing generally less. They're doing important things, they're doing important stuff, but they will never be as important to me as the millions of people that they claim they're fighting for while buying their second house or buying a $3 million house. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, mind you, that $3 million house was an option. He didn't have to live in LA. He didn't have to live in California. He didn't have to do any of that stuff. Just like Destiny used to say he had to live in Miami for work, so he had to abandon his kid. He did not have to live in Miami for work. That is an excuse content creators give when they don't want to be responsible. That is a lie. You do not have to live in LA to be a popular creator. The whole point of being online is that we're chronically online. We can live wherever we want and get just as popular. Many YouTubers bought $300,000 houses in middle of nowhere, and they're perfectly happy. The truth is, they want to be celebrities. They want to be known. They want to be accessible to people. So again, this like excuse that a lot of these people give, oh, I had to do this. You did not have to do nothing. You made the decision and you made the choice. Okay, there are plenty of suburban $1 million homes you could have bought in California that would have been literally a quarter of the price, a third of the price, and would have been much more reasonable. But you didn't. And maybe you didn't for a lot of reasons. But the point is, don't call it just a house when you bought a $3 million house. You know what I mean? $3 million house will never just be a house. Even because the price is what matters. It doesn't matter what the house looks like. It's the price tag that matters. That's crazy. And you know that was a choice. Okay? Same with Chelsea buying a second house. What do you need a second house for? Like, what was that for? Like, who did that benefit? And then to say you're going to write it off as a nonprofit. So here's an example. I think this is her house in France.
Let's have lunch in the south of France. We don't always have a formal sit-down lunch here, but since we have our first house guests of the season, we thought, why not? And one of the keys to hosting basically all summer long is to always make lots of extra food so you can do these easy leftover lunches. We started by setting out the drinks, including this leftover bottle of white wine, some still and sparkling water with some lemon wedges. And then we put out the spread, which was mostly made of leftovers from the night before, with some easy extras like ham or these tomatoes with olive oil, salt, and pepper. We set out some crudité with my homemade yogurt dip and some marinated vegetables, plus some leftover sage butter pasta, which was perhaps even better cold. With that, we had leftover chicken sage meatballs and some cheese for anyone who wanted a cheese course. And that was what we had for the savory spread. For dessert, we had a little bit of trifle left over, which was pound cake, macerated strawberries, and a chantilly mascarpone cream. That one will be on heavy rotation.
I just think like Chelsea's in this era of playing rich. Like, I think she's playing house, but it's like wealthy. And I get it. My commentary video this week is about girl bossing into philosophical evil. Listen, I think we all have the dreams of becoming girl bosses when we were younger, but then we realized capitalism sucks and it's fucking evil. So that's the question. Like, you're playing this game of like being a girl boss while talking bad about girl boss and lean in and all these things, but this is what that is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you're playing into. And I thought we all decided like we weren't going to do that. Now, again, I'm not saying I'm going to change my values because of Chelsea's, but I'm saying if Chelsea's values are going to be this, then I have to take a stand for my audience to know I don't agree with this. Just like you ask me, Brittany, what do you think about Dr. K going on the Diary of the CEO? The Diary of the CEO pushes false information, misinformation, fake science. It's a completely right-wing podcast. I hate that podcast. I like Dr. K. I think he's trying to get his message out to as many people as possible. But I'm looking at Dr. K with a side eye as much as anybody else, because there are certain things that if he does, I will write him off. But I'm giving him the chance of saying, okay, he's trying to get his message out to the most people possible. Same with any other creator I watch who's like, especially in the philosophy realm. I love the philosophy realm, but a lot of these people talk to Richard Dawkins, who's an infamous transphobe and Islamophobe. And it's like, you know, I struggle with this too. Like, I want to collab with a lot of people, but they're out here collabing with some of the worst people I know. And I'm like, you know, it's hard when you start to hold yourself to a higher standard of like who you can talk to, because people are flawed, but some people are genuinely flawed, like in borderline bigoted and evil. Like, we can't have Zionists on the show, right? We can't have pro-Israel people on the show. We can't have, you know, anti-gay marriage people on the show. We can't have homophobes on the show. We can't have transphobes on the show. We're not going to have Islamophobes on the show. You know what I mean? So like that cuts us off from a majority of people in the world. I think we keep forgetting how bigoted the world is. And then we expect ourselves not to fall into it. And again, you know, if we're talking about a struggling economy and people can't buy groceries, and then somebody's sitting there talking about their second home, now you might as well be Becca Bloom. I'm not saying Chelsea's Becca Bloom. I'm being a little facetious, but like, you know, it's like you might as well be Becca Bloom, girly. You know what I mean? You might be one of those rich girls on TikTok who are like, my dad bought me a yacht today. It's like Nara Smith saying she's not a trad wife and she doesn't know why people think she is, even though she literally is making trad wife content. Well, you know, everyone realizes they're double income, 5 kids. Like, this is what I'm saying. It's like a cognitive dissonance between the content we're making. So again, you can call me jealous or whatever else, but hear me out. What if we just have a difference of ethics? I'm not jealous of homeschoolers when I say like, maybe not. I'm not jealous of people with 20 kids when I'm like, maybe not. You wouldn't say that. If I got on stream and I said Erica Kirk is a money hungry, capitalist seeking, doesn't care that her husband died woman, you guys would be like, yes, queen. I get up here and I question Chelsea's decision to buy a second house and everyone's like jealous. And I'm like, be consistent. Be consistent, right? The values are subjective. Everything's subjective, but we have to be consistent. Okay. So this is my thinking. That's how my thinking works, right? So I am concerned about Chelsea, but I'm not more concerned than I am ethically principled. So, okay, do we get that? I'm concerned for the world. I'm concerned for Clavicular right now going through a midlife crisis about his nose job, which looks fine. But I'm more principled against Clavicular than I will ever be concerned. I am more principled against Chelsea than I will ever be concerned in terms of their values. Clavicular's work is harming the world. And I understand he's a boy who's struggling, right? I hold both of these things at the same time. I am multifaceted. I am devastated for Chelsea feeling attacked by the way she looks and all these other things she's struggling with. And you're in a position of privilege. You're running a business. You're putting out content to consume. I'm going to be critical like I would of anybody else, Dave Ramsey or Caleb Hammer or anybody else who puts out content. I'd say, ooh, like, I don't love this content because these principles, these values are different than me. And I can still empathize. You got to do both. Like when I post this video, I'll probably put Hassan and Chelsea in the thumbnail. And the comments will then again be like, oh my God, again, Brittany, you're obsessed. But hear me out. Is it obsession or is it principled, consistent stance to explain my ideas because you keep asking? Right? That's the question. You know what I mean? That's the question. So again, we're talking about ethics. This is a philosophy channel. And look, 99% of my core audience doesn't care, but the people who don't know my work come into my content and they have these strong opinions, but I'm trying to get them to understand if we agree the world is suffering, then don't you think we'd all be responsible for that suffering? Because that's the question. It almost feels like Hassan and Chelsea can do no wrong, which is absolutely impossible. Just like I can't do no wrong. But you know what I'm saying? And as a marginalized person who always gets the shorter end of the stick, you know, you were always assumed to be worse than these people who are successful, right? This is why I say with Zoran, we love Zoran, but he's still a politician. Actually, this guest said that. This guest said, hey, we love Zoran. We worked on his campaign. She literally worked with Zoran to get him elected. She also said she will hold him accountable if he fucks up. And that's the difference. I support you, but we will absolutely call you out. And that's what helps me. So next comment part says, my guess is that it's something to do with choice, but that's where all these things fall apart a bit for me. I remember you leaning more conservative after frustration from the left. And if Chelsea's in a similar moment, and by conservative, we mean liberal, I look at it as similar that none of us really have free will and are always reacting to what came before in our imperfect humanity. On the other hand, I think it's exactly these types of convos that help bump you back towards a progressive stance, but not from random people, more so from your audience who speaks in good faith. So I wonder if Chelsea could hear this better in her own space versus feeling like she's being talked about in a negative manner, could make her defensive and write off these convos. But again, Chelsea has already been lectured by her audience to the point where she had to put out this PSA because her audience is directly criticizing her. I'm just agreeing as a part of her audience. And as a YouTuber. And I'm saying, girl, she already knows. She already knows. She's already been fighting for her life in her comment section her whole life. Guys, I've watched enough Chelsea Fagan in my life to know this isn't new for Chelsea. I am not doing anything new. I'm saying we're just having conversations. This is why I am forced to hang out or watch Debate Bro content, because at least Debate Bros will keep having the conversations, even if it's just for views. We have to have the conversation if we want to get anywhere. And we have to have it with people who are good faith, but I am 1000% good faith. You know I am. You know I have one of the best reputations on the internet of being good faith. I am one of the most good faith people ever. Out of all the people who would be kind to Chelsea, it would be me. But do not get it twisted that I will not be so kind to Chelsea that I let her not answer the question when asked, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm saying her audience already knows. Chelsea's already getting backlash. She's just not listening to it because it's the minority audience member. And I'm saying, yes, even though the minority audience member can be wrong, sometimes they can be right. And the question is, right? And I think they're right. I think the minority audience is right. They don't understand why Chelsea bought a second house. It's confusing. Why do you have to go to France for 6 months out of the year? And why can't you stay with family and friends? Because you're taking a house away from a local in France. That's the point of the issue. European small towns especially are begging people to stop buying property here. There are places in the United States where 90% of the houses are abandoned most of the year because nobody's living there. And then we want to talk about taxes. Are your local taxes not even going to your local areas? So schools aren't being funded, roads aren't being funded. Like, I don't understand. Isn't this leftism like 101? Understanding that if you are not paying your local tax, if you're not engaging in it, and now she wants to write it off as a nonprofit? I'm confused. I'm just confused about all of these ideas of I don't understand how we don't understand. So that we've already had this conversation 1,000 times, but I guess maybe people are just learning about it now. They're just processing it now that, oh, if I'm not in the local area, I'm not buying from the local grocers. The local groceries aren't going to have groceries because they don't have people to feed it to, but the homes aren't vacant, or the homes are vacant, but they're purchased. So now we don't have new families moving in, new families to come into the school district, new families to come in and shop, new families to move the economy forward. And you're taking a house from somebody, right? And then you're writing it off as a nonprofit. There are so many layers to this that are inappropriate. There's just a lot of layers to this that are very wrong, you know? Okay, and then this person goes on to say, okay, let me see. And I appreciate this comment so much. Let me see. Because all good questions, right? I do have answers for them because I think about this all the time, right? Okay, let me see. Hold on, I just want to make sure. Yes, they pointed out that anytime I fluctuated, because we all do, we go always 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. 3 steps forward, that's how most of us learn. Anytime I've gone 2 steps back, right? I've always had people there to go, no, Brittany, no, Brittany. Every era I've had of collabing with problematic people, my audience has been like, Brittany, no. And I'm like, no? Are you guys sure? No, you're wrong, guys. You're wrong. And then later I'm like, you guys were right. You guys were right. How many times have I admitted that my audience knew better, or my friends were right, or I was wrong? I want to see those YouTubers do the same thing. I want to see the change in these people from the last 5 to 6 years that shows that they are growing. Because most of these people are not growing. They're just getting richer and buying second houses. They are not fundamentally changing. And that's what I'm aiming for. I want to see change. I want to see you grow. I want to see you be better. Because humans suck. We literally suck so bad. We have to work every day to be less bad every day, yeah? Okay. They said, okay, but not from random people, mostly from your audience. Okay, so again, I don't feel like I'm exactly a random person, but I feel like Chelsea's also not listening to her audience, so whatever. She just argues back. Right? Just a reminder. She says, I knew this video about buying a second house would cause some conversation to avoid hurting my own feelings, because she admits she's very sensitive to these things, which is fine. We're all sensitive. She goes, yes, I'm extremely privileged, but the majority of my annual income does not come from TV. So she's making an excuse already. But, right? Yes, I'm extremely privileged, but, okay, conversation over. Conversation over. I don't want to hear anything else you have to say. Okay, I am paid a very low relative salary for what I do, $108,000 as a CEO. Again, if you're a leftist, You would not be comparing yourself to a capitalistic CEO. Yes, to a CEO in a capitalistic world, you're making a low salary. But for a leftist, you're making good money. And you're a double income, no kids, and that's just her base salary. That's just from TFD. That's not even from her book sales or anything else, in which she brought in $250,000 this year. Do you know what I'm saying? From a leftist perspective, yes, it is a low salary for a CEO. That is true. Most CEOs in high earning companies and publicly traded companies are making more money, but TFDA isn't even a publicly traded company, right? But so, yes, I understand what she's saying. Okay, so again, though, when you're saying it like this, it's just weird. It's just a weird way to say it, okay? You said I'm currently the 4th highest paid person out of 7. I get that. That sounds all good if we're liberal girl bosses. But if we're leftists, none of this matters. You said I'm lucky enough to be a high earning, dual income, no kid household. This allows us to live dramatically free. Okay, even if you have no kids, it doesn't mean if anything, it means you definitely don't need a second house, right? So it's this idea that like, oh, we have no kids, so we can have a second house. No, you have no children, you don't need a second house. That's the difference of values. So the capitalistic liberal says, ooh, I can buy a second house because I don't have any kids. The leftist goes, oh, I don't have any kids or people to put into that house. I don't need a second house. That's the fundamental value. That's the ethical difference. You know what I'm saying? Again, it always comes back to why. Why do you need a second house? Oh, we don't have kids. Ooh, exactly. Why do you need a second house? What does that even mean? You know what I mean? Okay. And then she said, I have also used my own financial privilege to directly support the company. So now she's saying I put money back into my own company to keep it alive. Yeah, that's pretty basic. You said I'm probably not relatable at 37 because I set out to completely change my financial life, and I did. And through hard work and changing my habits, but also primarily through luck, it would be dishonest for me to pretend I'm the same person I was at 27. I mean, I think the same thing about my life. I'm very successful. I'm very comfortable. I make very good money. Inflation does not change the fact that I make very good money. Inflation does not change the fact that she makes very good money. Enough money to buy a second house. Okay? So again, like, when we put ourselves into perspective, we have to acknowledge that, like, regardless of inflation, we do make good money. That's why we have to argue with politicians. That's why we have to protest, because nobody should be having to make $250,000 to feel comfortable. Nobody should have to labor that hard to feel comfortable when everyone's laboring as hard as they can and they're only making $40K a year. Like, what are we doing? Right? So it sounds like she's saying, I worked really hard to get here, so I deserve a second house. You know? Okay, so then this person says, I'd love to hear more about how you look. I'd love to hear more about how you wait, hold on, Brittany. I'd love to hear more about how you work to have these conversations ethically. And I guess I'm questioning if there is even a better way to have all these conversations where we still show examples of people to talk about values without centering those individuals and their specific narrative, current choices as much. Okay, so from this perspective, I would say, the reason it's wrong to talk about Ariana specifically when talking about her mental health is because Chelsea did not make it clear in her video that she was not coming for Ariana's body or her bag or her life. She was saying, as a public figure, it would be good of you to think about explaining to your audience, yes, I'm sick. I'm going through stuff. I'm the healthiest I've ever been, but I am sick, because you can be those things. You can be the healthiest you've ever been and still be sick. I think Chelsea probably doesn't believe that, but you can, okay? And explain to them that, like, this isn't body goals. It is just the reality of my illness. Or Chelsea also, I think, is wrong to demand that of Ariana if, in a sense, Ariana doesn't want to take that upon herself because it doesn't work within her ethical framework. But I think if Chelsea said, I, as a creative, want to be transparent with my audience about what I do with my body, like Chelsea shared she was on a GLP-1, but no, that after Chelsea shared that, she also said, I don't give a fuck what you think about me doing that. So here's Chelsea saying Ariana should be a role model and be transparent about her stuff. But here's Chelsea being transparent while telling the audience, I don't give a fuck what you think, though. So why are you sharing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are we having this conversation? So the difference for me is I'm not going for Chelsea's mental health or her sickness. I'm going for her principled philosophical stances, her political stances. I'm saying, hey, if your politics is this, what's this? If Chelsea came out and said, guys, my mental health is really rough, I'm in a very bad place, and this is just where I'm at right now, I might treat it differently. But she's not saying that, is she? She's saying, I'm living the best life I am. I bought a second house. Here's my transparency. And I'm saying, oh, I disagree with her buying a second house. Am I allowed to disagree with her buying a second house? That's what I'm sharing. And now people say, oh, but Brittany, why don't you think she should buy a second house? Oh, I think it's unethical. Oh, why is it unethical? Oh, here are the reasons. And then I lay it out for you. I am disagreeing with the choice for these reasons because of my ethical framework. The same way I've been transparent about my issues with all these other topics we've ever talked about. Is here's my issue with it. This is why I don't do it. This is why I don't think other people should do it. And at the same time, like, we're all animals on a planet. We're all going to die. So you do you. But like, here's why I don't think it's generally good. I think it harms more people than it helps. And I think the only person really benefiting is Chelsea. And even then, I don't even know. Okay. They said, oh, I lost it. Hold on. Where did it go? Oh God, Brittany. Oh, hold on. Okay. It said, okay, maybe using many people as an example instead of a specific focus on the same person over and over. To be clear, I don't think that you have any harmful intent. Are using examples of people that are prominent to you. Okay, but see, you asked me about Chelsea in this video. So now I'm making a video about what you asked me about, which is Chelsea. Do you know what I'm saying? The reason I keep talking about Chelsea or Hassan is because you guys ask me questions and then I make content answering those questions. So now I'm going to make another video about Chelsea and Hassan because I was asked about Chelsea and Hassan. So now it looks like, oh, Brittany's making all this content about Chelsea, but you want to know about Chelsea, right? So now what do I do here? And then of course, because we're all a part of this ecosystem, the thumbnail needs to tell people what they're watching. The title should tell people what they're watching. So I'm going to put them in the thumbnail and the title so you know what I'm talking about. And maybe their viewers will want to watch it because they're interested and want to learn. So am I making content about Chelsea or is my audience asking me to make content about Chelsea? Or is it both? It's probably a little bit of both. My interest and her work, your interest. And then at what point are these people celebrities and we can just talk about them in a way that because they're trending or famous? Like at what point, how many interviews do they need to have on platforms that none of us will ever have access to before we can talk about them? How many interviews, you know what I mean, do they get to go through before we talk about it? Right? That's the question. Lisa, to be clear, I don't think you have any harmful intent and are using the examples of people that are prominent to you, but you can also acknowledge the targets of conversations might feel just as an attack as someone would be centered of their body. Is this your value? More about around how you have the conversation? And is the line body talk versus ideas? I'm oversimplifying here because it's already long, but I hope my ask came across and made sense. Thank you for the feedback you provide. Always help me organize my thoughts. Yeah, I think the difference is like, I'm not going to attack Chelsea. So when we look at Chelsea and we say, Chelsea makes a lot of content about what she looks like because people make fun of what she looks like. And then she will say like, you know, dressing my age and how I look. And I'll say, oh, if you're going to talk about it, I love to talk about it. A lot of the people in my audience thought she was a Republican when they first saw her. And it's because she just looks, she has that look. And because fashion is political, her choosing to continue looking like a Republican is interesting. Now, she might feel like I have no other choice. This is what I want to look like. And that's okay. And we have to, this is the problem, is like whether we like it or not, we don't always, if you're going to look the way you want to look, you need to own it and never talk about it, or you need to acknowledge that fashion is political. And then the question is, okay, how do I signal to my in group? You know, that's the question. Let me see. Chelsea Fagan, dressing my age. And then, of course, it's hard. It's hard to know what you should look like, right? Okay. This says maybe it's because you dress like a 50-year-old woman, right? That's the comment, which is, you know.
I'm sorry, I have to acknowledge this because this is just such a wild comment to say publicly with your whole profile picture in view. Like, girl, I wish I had.
But is that more wild than saying Ariana Grande looks like an animal and you shouldn't pay to her, go to her concerts and her body looks scary? Is that crazier? Because I feel like, yeah, there's definitely a sensitivity to it. But also, isn't it kind of crazier to say that you're frightened of the way that Ariana looks?
An ounce of that courage. But more importantly, I actually want to make a quick point here.
And to be fair, this is 2023, Chelsea.
Because while I don't actually think I do dress like a 50-year-old, I follow many, many beautiful and stylish women of all ages, and dressing like a 50-year-old is not an insult to me. But here's the real thing, is that I intentionally, more and more as I age and have the money to do so, want to buy clothes that will literally last me until I'm 50 plus. Like, my late grandmother was the most stylish person who ever lived, and I have inherited so many of her clothes and accessories. This watch I wear every single day was hers from the 50s. But we have been so thoroughly brain poisoned by fast fashion that we think it's normal to essentially throw out our entire wardrobes once every few years. But I'm actively trying to cultivate a wardrobe that will look and feel good for decades to come. And that means buying classic pieces that are not just based on whatever happens to be trending on TikTok amongst 20-year-olds. That's it. Okay, I'm sorry.
So, you know, she's always fighting for her life in these comments. And I'm saying, I wish Chelsea understood the reason. And look, Reddit, I went on Reddit to see what they think about Chelsea. They're mean there. Like, I wouldn't want to read those comments either. Though I will be honest, I do think some of them are ringing true. So the question comes, how do I take criticism? What do I think is true? So this is what I do. When I get a comment that activates me, I read it, I look at it, and I share it with somebody in my life. I go, thoughts? And they go, yeah, I think they have a point. Or they go, nah, they don't know what they're talking about. And I look at it and I go, do they have a point? If I read any of the comments I read about myself and I notice myself getting upset about it, first, because I'm a person, we're a biological creature, I do make sure if it's true or not. Because I'm either activated because it feels like I'm not being seen, or I'm activated because it's getting something in me that's true. And sometimes you guys do activate me and I go, they're right. And I'm wrong. And I come and I apologize and I right my wrong and I move on, right? But sometimes you will be right. And sometimes you will be wrong. And the question is, I have to discern with my wisdom which one it is. Just like we do in all social situations, just like we do when our parents give us advice, or we have conversations with family and friends, or somebody in our life looks at us and goes, oh, you're such a this. You know, it's like, am I such a this? And then you have to really do the work to discern. So when I look at Hassan, I go, you're being a fuckboy. You're being so inappropriate. If you were my brother, I'd be like, redo your brand. You look like a fucking pervert. You look like a guy who's absolutely getting nudes from his fans, and it's disgusting. Change your fucking brand. And then I would look at Chelsea. If she was my sister, I'd be like, I love you, but you look like you vote Trump. And I don't know what to do about this, except, you know, when people say you look like you're 50, it's because you're dressing in cheetah print sunglasses and like grandma sweaters. You can do this, by the way. I love a grandma look on a grown woman. But yeah, like, you have a cute sense of style, but it's a little bit like, it's a little middle-aged. It's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? You're not a bad person.
I've been thinking a lot about who my style.
I struggle with style. We all struggle with style. I'm just letting you know. You can own it or not own it, or change it or not change it. It doesn't matter. If Chelsea showed up tomorrow in bondage gear and leather pants, it would completely transform. In blue hair. All of a sudden, she would look very different. It's because fashion ages us down. It changes how we look. That's just what it is. Okay, here's Hassan admitting he's wearing suits to appeal to white supremacist grandmas on Fox News. Like, that's just the reality of what people are. And I know this is somebody who, like, you know, I'm not ugly, I'm just poor. You know what I mean? I'm not fashionable, I'm just poor, right? But, you know, you just wait, girlies. But also, even with the few limited money I have to invest in what I look like, I'm really happy with what I look like. You know, I'm really in my gym girl era. You know what I mean? Like, I'm wearing a lot of my tank tops. I'm in workout clothes a lot of the time. I'm good with that. It's not very European, and Croatians definitely look at you funny. But, like, are they going to pay my bills? Are they going to, you know what I mean? She bought $1 million house. She could have bought $1 million wardrobe. She could have bought $1 million wardrobe. You know what I'm saying? She could have given $500,000 to her husband and $500,000 to herself. If, you know, with $1 million, you could have gone to college. You could have paid for someone's college. Do you know what I mean? You could have done so much with a second house. You don't even have kids. Pay for somebody else's kids to go to college. You know what I mean? But that's okay. You do what you want with your money. But doesn't that go back to capitalism? Isn't capitalism going back to, oh, you get to do whatever you want with your wealth? What does Dave Ramsey say? This isn't my money. This is God's money. I own 100 properties, $100 million worth of property, but it's not my property. It's God's property. Come on, girl. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? Come on.
Icons are, and I think this summer I want to go for Miss Honey if she lived in New York City. Think breezy dresses with pops of bold color. and fun patterns that are.
You know what's funny about her choosing Miss Honey is like, you are not Miss Honey, girly. You are way too much of a aggressive girly to be Miss Honey. That's the thing about Chelsea that I don't think she recognizes. I'm not harsh. Chelsea is so harsh. She's so blunt. She couldn't be Miss Honey. We are more Trenchbull than we will ever be Miss Honey. And I love a Trenchbull. Don't get me wrong. We love a fashionable lesbian girly. Okay. But like the reason I'm Miss Frizzle is because I'm an aggressive girly. Chelsea doesn't know who she is. She couldn't be Miss Honey if fucking she got hit in the head with a honey jar. Like Miss Honey is the most soft-spoken, like feeble, sensitive, pushover girly in the whole film. What do you mean, Chelsea? You're one of the meanest girls on the internet. That's what I'm saying. Why is Chelsea's audience looking at me like I'm not sensitive when Chelsea literally makes a living making fun of people how they look? Half the TikToks I see from her is making fun of people. You know what I'm saying? Come on now, Miss Honey.
Maybe a little darker than what she would have worn. And of course, glasses, because I need to see. Anyway, that's just my mood board lately. Bye.
I just feel like Chelsea doesn't know who she is because she's a neurodivergent girly who hasn't done the work. And she's just dying. She's like, just, you know what I'm saying?
Very underrated element of being chic, in my opinion, that
Pause. I would, girly, see, even chic, the word chic, classist, white supremacist, chic is for people with money and style. And that is neither me nor anybody else I know.
It's nothing.
Except, you know who I think is chic? Older West Asian grandparents with money. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, when I think of chic, I think of my really rich relatives who spent their whole life making money. None of them in their 20s were chic. None of them in their 30s were exactly chic. Everyone got chic when they were older. So Chelsea's house playing chic. That's why I think it's funny.
Also has nothing to do with appearance, is accepting that not everything is meant for you and that is increasingly true as you get older. For example, I am 37 years old, which means that I am increasingly sharing the internet with people who are on average younger than I am. And therefore, I am frequently encountering things that don't necessarily resonate for me or I'm maybe even a little turned off by. And rather than automatically feeling threatened by it or hostile toward it, I can also take a step back and say, I'm 37. I'm nearly middle-aged. There's a good chance that this isn't really geared toward me. And that
I think that's fine, right? Like, I think it's good to know what's meant for you, what makes sense for who you are. And I also think it's okay. Like, I don't want to run into that thing where it's like 37-year-olds can't dress like that because that's for kids. It's a balance. I think you can dress in bondage gear that's better quality as you get older. Because when I was younger, I wore the cheap stuff and that made sense for where I was. But as you get older, the quality of the bondage gear goes up, right? That's what I think it is. Okay. And that's what I think of it as. Now, Discourse is bringing up the fact that her business is in a co-op and we don't know why. I am curious about that as well. Why didn't she choose to make it a co-op? I do wonder that as well. Maybe because she's not an anti-capitalist. Not that I would know anything about this. It's way above my pay grade, but you know what I mean? I think Hassan's business is a co-op, if I'm not mistaken. His clothing company, I believe, is a co-op.
it's actually completely normal and healthy for someone who is nearly middle-aged to not necessarily resonate with the same media or trends or even life choices that people nearly 20 years younger than me might enjoy. Because to be clear, there is nothing wrong with being, like myself, nearly middle-aged, but that also means that things are just...
My Discord chat saying it's not a co-op, Google saying it's not a co-op, and chat said it is a co-op? Oh, cope? It's a cope? Or it's a co-op. Yeah, Hassan's is a co-op. I wonder why, is hers a co-op?
It's going to hit a little differently for me, and that's okay. And rather than fight against it, I can choose to embrace where I'm at in life. And
Discord said I can see the masking thing. I think Chelsea Fagan is masking, right? Like, I think, and I could be wrong about maybe some of these details, but I saw an interview where Hassan said he has a co-op company. So I don't know which exactly company that is. Maybe it's his podcast. Maybe the podcast is a co-op. But Chelsea is ADHD, as is Hassan, by the way. And I do think they're doing a lot of masking, which is normal. So that's the other thing that plays into this, guys. I am autistic, but I am learning to unmask. I am on a journey of unmasking all of this learned behavior, which I think Chelsea desires to do in a way, but she's confusing like decentering men or patriarchy and forgetting to unmask her neurotypicalness. Like she's forgetting to unmask her desire to be accepted by certain kinds of people. And I think that's interesting.
And the many.
Okay, let's see.
So the number one insult that I get on here by far is that I age myself. I think because I have a bob and I wear glasses and I wear clothes that are like, I wouldn't necessarily say conservative, but they're definitely not trendy or youthful. And they're usually not something that would look out of place on like a 50 or 60-year-old. And I want to say like,
So you do look 50. So you do dress 50. See how in her other video, she was upset when someone said, like, oh, you dress like a 50-year-old. And then she was like, it wouldn't look out of place on a 50-year-old. So which one is it? Where's the self-awareness? Do we dress like we're 50 or do we not dress like we're 50? Which is not an insult, but are we owning the fact that we dress like we're 50 or we're not?
I don't go out of my way to look older, but I'm definitely not optimizing against it. And
Like, to be clear, I am not trying to dress younger. I'm just trying to wear clothes I like. Like, I know there are certain young people trends I see that I go, oh yeah, I'm too old for that. But there are certain ways that I still dress that people would consider young that I just consider my fashion, the things I love to wear.
And what I really find very sad is the idea that under no circumstance.
Yeah, I think, okay, chat's right. You said she can't own anything. Maybe that's why she thinks she's progressive. That's my biggest criticism with most of the people in the world, period, from our parents to our friends to our family, is human beings generally have a really hard time owning things. Oh, I did do that. Oh, I got to own that. That was my bad. Oh, I do that. You know what I mean? You got to own it if you feel like it's accurate. And this is the way that I think about introspection, extrospection, and deconstruction. I think about owning the participation. Now, of course, if you have haters or negative people or cynical people on the internet, and they're like, Brittany, like you did this, but it doesn't match the way I see it. Either I need to introspect more or they're just wrong. And that's really hard when you get thousands of messages from people and you're like, who is it? It's hard when you have your family and friends doing this to you. So again, use discernment. I could be wrong about Chelsea Fagan, but based off what I'm observing, here's my thought process. Here's what I think. Again, always about my subjective values. It's always connected to my framework. And also I'm trying to bring in an audience that agrees with the ethics that I subscribe to. It's not that I want you to agree with me. I want to have a community that agrees with these ethics above. Okay? Collective efforts, no bigotry, deconstructing, always being, less bad every day. Not over consuming. And I don't know what's more overconsumption than buying a second house that you're not even going to put family and friends in permanently. Like, I don't even know how that is not overconsumption. Like, nobody needs a second house. People in my comments saying, Brittany, she needs a second house. Nobody needs a second house. Your family might need a house and you might buy a house for them. But you as an individual, nobody needs, capital N, 2 houses. So when you say like, oh, she needs it, I can't even start to conceptualize how that is in any way possible. So again, what does the word need mean to you? After I did therapy and philosophical work, I had to learn the differences between my wants and my needs. I do not need a second house. That is like a very interesting logic for people to say, oh, we need a second house. Like, wow, you need a second house? And we're talking about buying a second house. We're not talking about building multiple houses on your property where friends and family live. We're talking about taking a house out of the availability to locals in that area when you're not even going to live there for 6 months out of the year, and then making it a nonprofit. Right? That's what we're talking about. So to, answer this person's comment, and I said, all good questions. We've covered these points on stream at different times, but I don't have a video to send you. They said, thank you. Looking forward to it. I just want to add no questioning. So I can tell how you speak wait, hold on. And not questioning. So I can tell you how to speak of any kind of way. I want to hear you better because I'm trying to in turn explain myself better. And I believe understanding others is really helpful. Absolutely. And shout out to this person. Shout out to my members. Again, I think the reason you probably watch my content is because we are having conversations here that most people are not having. One compliment I think my community always gets is, nobody's having the conversations anywhere else the way we do here. Even on my Discord, people rejoin the Discord all the time because they're like, no one else engages with me philosophically. Like, they'll go to other discords, other communities. Yeah. I mean, we're already marginalized. We're already the minority amongst the minority. And now on top of it, we're trying to have discussions about self-awareness and introspection. Yeah, of course this content isn't going to be for most people. Most people don't want to watch content like this because it really forces you to look yourself in the mirror. And then it forces you to have like a radical empathy with how flawed we are as an evolved species on the planet. Because fuck, are we flawed? So again, I want the best for Hassan. I want the best for Chelsea. I want to be their biggest cheerleaders, but I ethically can't. Because if I sit here and say I'm the biggest fan of theirs, and then people see all the bullshit they're doing, it's so unethical. I disagree. I think it's wrong. But that's okay if we disagree. Like, you're allowed to disagree with me thinking it's wrong. You're allowed to say, Brittany, I don't agree. I think it's right. And I go, okay. That's our difference of values. This is what philosophy is. This is what ethics is. Do we think this is good? Do we think it's bad? And then is it bad for me? And is it bad for me and my community? So ethics, community, morals, you. I think it is immoral if I did it because it's not a part of my values. Unethical for my community if I do it. And then I go, okay, where's the harm there? If I'm trying to be less harmful, if I'm trying to harm reduce, I don't know how to buy a second home in the context Chelsea bought it in. Mind you, the context in which Chelsea bought it in, and it isn't unethical. It isn't immoral. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you can't come up with 8 billion people on the planet, some scenario in which this makes sense. I'm saying, given what she told us she is doing, I don't get it. Maybe she could come on and explain it. Maybe we could have a collaboration and she could explain it. She was already transparent. She already shared it with us. We already know. None of us went digging for it. She shared it. She shared it. Okay, well, since you're sharing it, I have some questions. Okay, that's it. Hassan is out here retweeting thirst traps of himself. I think the feminist in his life should say, hey, stop doing that. It's fucking gross. It's weird. It's weird to encourage this relationship with your fan base. This is exactly the makeup. This is the Jared Leto makeup of young girls being taken over and swooning over a handsome man, and this handsome man taking advantage of them. This is exactly why many women stay silent in political movements for decades, because it's harming the cause. I don't understand how he's not seeing how this is exactly the formula of every perverted grooming man who's ever taken advantage of their fans. This is exactly the perfect formula. I don't understand how nobody is like, hello, what are you doing? Stop doing that. And stop hanging out with disgusting men who admit on radio shows and get laughs with their friends about drugging and sleeping with women who are intoxicated and can't remember the next day. You know what I mean? It's super fucking weird. Chat says, I've never experienced a chat like this online or off. It's incredible community you've built, Britt. It's an amazing community because we found each other. And that's what I'm hoping to do. You know what I mean? I just want to make a space to invite people to ask these philosophical questions. And I assume we're all going to already start off on the left. So that helps. I'm assuming we're all already on the left side of things. So pro-gay marriage, pro-choice, anti-capitalist, something like that. Or almost anti-capitalist, maybe not fully anti-capitalist. Maybe you're a liberal still, but at least you're on the left of the conservatives, but you're trying to deconstruct. That means that I'm never talking to conservatives. That means none of my work has anything to do with conservatives. And I do think it's incredibly bad faith for women to get on the internet and question Hassan Piker's engagement with fans and have people say, oh, that's so conservative. You're such a prude. I'm not being a prude by calling out men and abusive tactics that most men have used to take advantage of viewers or fans. And this is exactly the script. Okay? How many documentaries do I have to see about men opening up yoga studios and opening up religious sects and opening up all this stuff? It's the same story over and over again. A charismatic leader who has this appeal. He gives special attention to certain people. He shows people love in a certain way. He encourages certain behavior, and boom. How many times do we have to watch this documentary on Netflix? So don't do it. How hard is it for him not to retweet or reblog thirst traps of him? And to tell his fans, like, guys, it makes me super uncomfortable. Don't do that. But it doesn't, does it? He loves it. Because like he said in that other TikTok I showed you the other day, he was an insecure fat kid who encourages his fans to send him nudes because it boosts his self-esteem. He literally said that with his full chest, and no one's going to call it out. And then we wonder why Trump felt entitled to going into girls' dressing rooms? Oh, they just let you grab you. They let you, you're a celebrity. You can do whatever you want. How do we not see how this is all connected? This is exactly the playbook of all of these entitled men to their female fans and saying girls will throw themselves at you. I mean, men literally become rock stars to have groupies. They take advantage of that positioning. I don't understand why we're not like, you know what I'm saying? And so again, this is the point. So again, call me obsessed, call me whatever you want, but I think I'm ethically principled. I think I am correct. And if Chelsea wants to have this conversation, I'll talk to her. If, again, I can't invite Hassan Piker onto my platform because I think it would just be too unsafe for the community here. But, you know, if somebody wants to argue that, they can. But either way, just a reminder that I heavily block this channel. I censor the comments on this channel because most of the people who find my content have never watched it and they're very bad faith. And this is where I live most of the time. But over on my Bert Simon channel, where I'm about to put out a video called Girl Bossing into Philosophical Evil, okay, I don't censor those comments as much because I don't read them. I barely read them. So, you know what I mean? You can go put the comments over in that area where I'm not going to see them. Because I do think a lot of bad faith people try to comment on my channel and they forget that I have this is my life. My life is philosophy. My life is ethics. And it doesn't matter how you politically identify. It doesn't matter if you're a girl boss, which I will highlight in this coming commentary video for tomorrow. You cannot be surprised when you're girl bossing so close to the sun that you support a genocide and people aren't interested in supporting you. You know what I mean? You can't girl boss so close to the sun that you end up doing an ad for an Israeli apartment complex in Israel and wonder why people don't support you. You can't, girl boss yourself so close to the sun that you become an icon in one world and then with another side of your mouth support Israel when you're sitting here talking about how women are being genocided by the plastic surgery industry. You know what I mean? Like, it's just interesting to watch women excel, to watch all of us excel, to watch all of us use girl boss liberal language to excel and become somebody in the world and then turn around and use it for such philosophical evil. Chat says, Icarus, stop. Wow, that's actually a beautiful way to end this segment. Icarus, no. That's so funny. Oh, I love that. I love that reference.